We've been working on a brand new drum kit called Audio Breach Volume 1. And while I was working on some new snare drums, I figured that I would share with you guys the 3 best methods to make creative yet versatile snares for your beats. Number 1 is the transformative processing method. This method involves taking a snare drum that you're probably already using, one of your favorites, and incrementally processing it with different plugins and effects to make it sound completely different and your own. I have this snare picked out for this beat and it sounds okay, but it definitely needs a lot of tweaking. And it's always a good idea to have a beat open and this playing back, because you can get lost in just listening to a snare all day, but you need to hear it in context. So the first things that I want to do is I want to get this to fit into the beat first. So I want to play with the transposition here, see if it would sound better minus or plus a couple notes. Let's see. I actually like how -2 sounds. One cool thing about Ableton too is they have these filters built in here, and these give you some different processing methods. So this MS2 gives us sort of a soft clipper effect when we turn up the drive knob. Another thing I like to do is either stretch or shorten the sample. So sometimes the snare will be too long or I want it to be a little more punchy. And what you can do is you can actually jump right here in one-shot mode, pick where you want it to end, and then pick a little fade out here. I don't know in this case that I want it to be shorter, but I'm showing you what I would do in that case. That sounds pretty good versus this. Other times you might want to stretch it out a little bit longer, and it'd be good to have that on an audio track. So let's put that on an audio track. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to resample this onto a new lane here. Put this back to no input. And let's check this out. You could even curve it in a little bit. I'm going to press Command J, Control J on Windows to consolidate that into a new clip. If we double click on it here, since it's already warped, you can play with the BPM and make it a little shorter, a little bit longer here. Now, what I've noticed is if you try to stretch it out too much, it's going to start sounding robotic. But you might be going for a certain effect, right? Maybe you want to change up the snare completely. Okay, so you can completely change how it sounds by changing where it starts, but I like how it was sounding originally. I think we stretched it a little too far. Pause. Let's pull it back a little bit. Let's go ahead and freeze and flatten this. Consolidate it again. Let's pull this back down. Another way to do this would be using like transient shapers. And my favorite free one has to be by Kilohertz. This thing smacks. But if you wanted to shorten it, you could also play with the sustain here. You can see the waveform updating in real time here, giving us a better visualization of what's going on. I mean, it actually sounds pretty good all the way up. One plugin that I love to use is the DBX, and this is a compressor limiter. And with this plugin, I can kind of shape the belly of the sound, and it helps me get that initial punch. Right now, it's going to be turned up to the max, but you can get a feel for exactly how much is going on by pushing this to the left or right here. That's going to leave it pretty much unchanged. And you can pick like how long do you want that to be, how hard do you want that to hit. So we'll try leaving it at the 300 for now. Let's pull it down a bit. I'm going to pull this back a little bit. At this point, though, let's go ahead and freeze and flatten this and commit it. It's good to start committing things. And if you want, the best thing to do is save a paper trail by versioning everything, right? Version 1, version 2, version 3. Ableton's shifter is really awesome for sound design, especially if you put it into frequency. You can play with the coarse or you can fine tune the pitch, especially if you need to just push it a certain way a little bit. But let me show you. So we're going to play with the fine tune. It'll probably sound a little better for what we want. Ableton's roar for distortion, amazing. Let's check this out. turn down the dry wet a little bit. Put a multi-band dynamics on here. And the other Ableton plugin I love to use is the Corpus as well. And you can like incorporate a bell sort of a sound in here. Crazy results with this in-harm. Turn it up 100% on the dry or wet. We're going to group it, create another chain. This will be the dry chain, and this will be the wet chain with the Corpus on it. And then we can use the volume to bring it in. All of these presets, they go hard. This is my favorite soft clipping plugin. I think it does the best job at its detail preservation in particular, but you can go more of a soft or a harder clip by dragging this slider right here. I'm not 100% sure if I like the Corpus on here or not. Sometimes it'll work better than others. We can make two versions of that. Let's go ahead and resample both of them. See, with this one, you could choose to leave in that long tail of the bell sound from the Corpus, or you could even just shorten it back up to originally what it was. Maybe leave a little bit of that in there. We'll consolidate this. Bring it up to 0. Let's consolidate this one as well. Method number 2 is the dirty combo. I'm going to type in snare and see what comes up here. I got a ton of stuff in here, right? There's going to be things that we like about certain snares and things that we don't like about others. We might like the initial transient of how one sounds versus another. We might like the effects, like the tail sound. Let's scroll down here and let's find something different. I almost like that first, but that ending there I don't like. I like the initial hit of it. So let's get rid of this. Let's find another one. Maybe we want to find a snare that has more of a body to it. I like how that sounds. So maybe I'll take off the initial transient of this one and try to capture more of the body of this sound. And you can see it's pretty much like right here. Boom. We want to hear everything together now. I don't want that part at the end there. Maybe even one more. You can see they're fitting together a lot better now. Also, we're going to want to get those volumes so that they're sitting together a little better. You can see this Yakuza snare, Yakuza, whatever it's called. You can see it's hitting loud. Like 5 over, and this one's only hitting right at 0. With this Wonka snare, I felt like it wasn't completely mono, so if we turn it on here, you can hear it sounds completely different. I want to get some like cool transient sound or some bell to go with this as well. Let's try this. That sounds dope. Let's try this out. Last but definitely not least, this is the fully customized snare method. We're going to go pretty fast through this one because this can take forever, especially as you're dialing everything in. But if you want to see me do every single step, we did a live stream where we broke down all 3 of these methods and I sat there for every second of it. So if you want to watch that, we'll go ahead and link that video in the description below. But let's jump right in. For this, I'm going to be using Serum 2. We have 3 different things going on. We have a noise layer, we have the tonal aspect, and this one is giving it almost a little bit of a transient. So if we turn this off, you can hear it adds a little ump to it. If we turn off the noise layer, we just got the tonal aspect. Turn on the noise layer. So all 3 together is where all the money happens. Let me show you the LFOs because that's really what's controlling the sound. I like to use them in envelope mode, and then I can use the rate down here in hertz to really dial in exactly how long I want it to be. So LFO 1 is going to go to the volume on this first one, and a lot of times people will use this one as well. But the LFO for this one is just going to hit straight, and then it's going to dive off, just like you'd think in one of these samples, right? If we take a look at one of these snare samples, probably something like this, it's going to hit straight through and it's going to curl down at the end. For LFO2, that's going to be going to our transient right here, and that's going to be doing something similar to our noise where it's making more of the body of the snare. There we go. We have our first layer, the snare layer. I want to shorten it up a little bit just like that. That looks good. Make sure it's at 0. Perfect. And that is going to be our first like bass layer. Next, we could either just keep that and call it a snare, or we can get super detailed with it. We could add textures, we could add another bell sound, we could add clap samples, because you'll hear a lot of times that popular snare samples are a clap and a bass snare like this kind of combined. Let's get a clap, for instance. So let's grab a clap, and we're going to find something that we like the tail and we kind of like the space that it's adding. That's kind of cool. I wonder how that would sound with this. Again, you're really not going to want to overlap that initial umph of the sound, right? This tail end here is what we're going to be using the clap to reliably add in here. So we're going to go ahead and we could even push this back a little bit, or you could mix it in. It's mono. Let's find like a transient-y perk sound. I'm going to go into the Detroit Sounds of the Era drum kit because I know we have a lot of those in this FX Sounds. Could even use that, to be honest. Let's try something with this. Let's put an EQ in here. And we're just going to solo this part. Could use a plugin like Boba. This is a free M4L plugin, by the way. We could use the delta here. You're gonna want to bring the threshold down, maybe turn the depth up a little bit. I've seen people use like breath sounds, chants, things like this, things to add space. Something like that. For this one, though, I want to be careful, so I'm going to put a utility on it. Put it in mono. Put a multi-band dynamics on the group. Consolidate it. I'm going to bring this back to 0. We're already good. If you want to see every single decision that I make, we did a live stream going into even more detail on these 3 methods. So I'll leave that video here for you. And if you want to get early access to this new drum kit, and we're sending out a bunch of free limited time drops, you can sign up for that right here. Catch you guys again in the next one. Peace out.